Hey guys, Allison here. Well, today I want to give you a perspective on something. Do you have somebody in your life, maybe a spouse, a child, a grandchild, a niece, a nephew, another family member, a friend? Maybe it's you that acts out once in a while, losing control, controlling behaviors, tantrums, whatever it is. And it could, and very often is a big source of upset and stress for you, the person who's going through it, whatever it is. And a lot of times, the way we respond to it is only perpetuating the problem. And maybe if it's you who has this problem that you find like, oh, I act out, I lose it, and then I feel so guilty afterwards. Instead of those self-recriminations, let's get a perspective on why people do that. All right, people tend to try to reassert control when they feel threatened in some way, whether it's physical safety, emotional safety, maybe they feel like they're going to be embarrassed or found out, maybe they're afraid of being abandoned, but something is getting triggered, usually from an old wound, or an insecure relationship that causes you or that person to just try to take control of the situation. So they may get argumentative, they may do things that are destructive, and then it doesn't get any closer to the goal, but it's like all their defenses jump in to try to protect them, and then it seems to perpetuate the problem. So if we look at it, from a different perspective, try to understand what's going on. So if, let's say this is maybe a teenager in the house like this, or again, might be yourself. What's really going on? What might they be afraid of? And maybe even once the situation calms down, to sit down and say, okay, help me to understand what you were experiencing before when we had that argument or when you got upset with your sister or your dad or whatever. Help me to understand. By asking the right questions, you can help that person to get a little bit more in touch with what's really happening here. Now, obviously, if there's a pattern of this happening, reaching out to a Catholic therapist would be a really good idea to really understand what's going on. If we don't feel safe in a relationship, we're not going to open up. So if there's been wounds in the past or just a whole family not feeling safe with one another, then working with a therapist can be really helpful because we need to feel safe to be able to even explore our own feelings and understand what's going on. But instead of looking at people as having controlling behavior, which it might be, but we try to assert control when other things seem out of control in our lives. There was a very funny episode of Everybody Loves Raymond. If you're a fan, I'm a big fan of that show, where Marie and Frank Barone drove their car into Ray and Deborah's house. And they had the house repaired, and the wallpaper, the stripes were off by like this much. And Raymond made such a big deal of it. He's ready to blow up his whole relationship with his parents. And Deborah steps in, and she's like, what is going on with this? And, I stop because, I'm always this close to saying something. And then he just looks at the wallpaper and goes, and there it is. All right, so it was a trigger for something, because obviously his parents are very intrusive, driving a car in the house, right? In so many ways. But I think we need to kind of get in touch with that. But if we could step back a little bit and say, okay, if this person is trying to assert control, it's because on some level or some area of their life, they're feeling out of control. So maybe our response might be to be in control over their control, especially if this is one of your kids, right? We want to assert control back. Doesn't work. So, really try to stop and assess the situation. If it's not working, try something else. Sometimes we have to try the exact opposite. All right, if you go to the mall and you want to get something and it says pull and you pull the door and it doesn't open, do you walk away or do you try pushing? We try to do the opposite. So again, if this is a long-standing pattern, it can be healed. Even those really, really challenging kids or really challenging people in your life, when we really understand what's going on under the surface, we can really make a lot of progress. But like I said, try to have more of a compassionate, curious stance of what's really going on here. Help me to understand. But when you see that those behaviors are a way of trying to reassert control when somebody feels out of control. All right. Obviously PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, we understand that, but sometimes there are little things that doesn't look like full-blown PTSD, but there's a similar quality there. So I hope you find that helpful. The goal is really for us to be able to guide our emotions by reason. But we can't guide our emotions by reason unless we're in touch with those emotions. And in order to get in touch with those emotions, we need to feel safe to do that. So if you're not making progress interpersonally, reach out to a Catholic therapist so that you can get this process underway. And not only will it heal that person, it can heal the whole family. And sometimes by healing those family dynamics, it really has a great impact on the kids and every member of the family. So I hope you find that helpful. God bless you.